Alright everyone, this is Kastigator here with my detailed review of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on PC. I played the game with everything maxed out on ultra settings, DLAA turned on, VSync enabled, and frame generation off. So let us dive right in and talk about how this game performs, looks, and plays, specifically the campaign and the story missions. Starting with the visuals, I have to say this right off the bat, this is the most photorealistic and cinematic Call of Duty I have ever played. It genuinely feels like you are inside a blockbuster film. The lighting, the reflections, and overall environmental detail are just breathtaking. Every surface from shiny metal to the grit of the sand is so finely rendered that it constantly makes you pause just to look around it. However, it is not perfect. Occasionally, I notice some light and shadow pop-ins when approaching detailed indoor environments, like a room full of objects on tables. It is not frequent, but when it happens, it slightly breaks the immersion. The same goes for the outdoor Iraq section. That open world sandbox area looks amazing at a distance, but once you start moving quickly through it, you can spot a fair bit of vegetation pop in and texture flickering. It is not game breaking, but it is there. Still, considering how large and detailed the game is, it handles it all impressively well. Now performance wise, this game runs like a dream. It is smooth, fluid and consistent throughout the campaign. I did not face any screen stuttering, crashes or weird performance dips. The optimization is top notch. Treyarch and Raven Software really outdid themselves here. Everything from gunplay to cutscene transitions feels perfectly synchronized. It gives you that seamless cinematic vibe that keeps you immersed in the action. The story this time around really caught me off guard in a good way. Set in the early 1990s during the aftermath of the Cold War, you play as a silent protagonist named Case, who is part of a group of rogue CIA operatives. The plot takes you through a mix of espionage, tactical infiltration, and high stakes missions with just enough political tension to make things interesting. The pacing is well balanced, and I actually enjoyed how missions did not feel like simply go there, shoot that objectives anymore. There are multiple approaches available, and it lets you experiment a bit, whether you want to sneak in quietly or just storm in guns blazing. The open world section in Iraq was a pleasant surprise. The game transitions into this sandbox environment where you need to destroy 3 Scud launchers, and it genuinely feels different from the usual Call of Duty structure. You can explore, plan, and choose your own method of attack. It reminded me a little of what other tactical shooters try to do, but on a much larger and more cinematic scale. However, those texture and shadow flickers I mentioned earlier tend to appear here the most, which slightly took away from how immersive it could have been. When it comes to the gameplay itself, the movement system has seen major evolution. You can now sprint, slide, dive, crouch, jump, and even rotate 360 degrees while prone. The control you have over movement feels freeing, and it makes combat a lot more dynamic. Every gun has weight, precision, and satisfying feedback. This is easily the smoothest Call of Duty I have played in terms of how it feels to actually shoot and move, where your gun automatically just leans left, right, or gets centered automatically, like continuously all the time, even if you're not behind anything. Character wise, I have to give them credit. The writing and voice acting are stellar. Every major character feels distinct and believable. The performances sell the story and make even the quieter dialogue scenes worth paying attention to. The only part that threw me off was the sudden shift into a zombie-like scenario halfway through. Out of nowhere, the game brings in these horror survival elements, complete with grappling and parkour that gave off major Dying Light vibes. It was fun, I will not deny that, but it definitely caught me by surprise. It felt like a game just went full Kyle Crane for a while. Whether you will enjoy that depends on how open you are to tonal shifts, but for me it was more of a what just happened moment than a bad one. There are also hallucination sequences towards the end that completely changed the atmosphere. I personally was not a fan of those, even though they were visually impressive and fun to experience. They felt out of place compared to the otherwise grounded tone of the story. The campaign's length is decent this time, around 9 hours for a full playthrough. It does not feel rushed, nor does it overstay its welcome. The story remains engaging until the very end, and those last few missions are some of the best in the series in terms of pacing and especially intensity. Technically, the PC version is solid all around. It requires DirectX 12 and an SSD for installation and performance, which makes sense given the visual fidelity here. The upscaling options and graphics customizations are as deep as you would expect. I tested all of it and the stability remained excellent across the board. No glitches, no broken missions, just a polished experience overall. To sum it all up, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is one of the most refined and enjoyable entries in the franchise that I have played so far. The graphical fidelity is unmatched, the performance is buttery smooth, and the story actually had me hooked. The few technical hiccups with texture flickering and pop-ins do not ruin the experience but are noticeable enough to mention. For me personally, I truly enjoyed this game. It feels like a proper step forward for the series with both old school intensity and new movement depth that makes it feel fresh again. It is not perfect, but it is definitely recommendable, especially if you are into cinematic campaigns with some freedom in how you play. That wraps up my review of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I hope you enjoyed listening to my thoughts on it, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and share what you thought of the game in the comments. A special shout out to the Slider W for their amazing support on the channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching everyone. This is Kastigator signing off. I will see you all in the next one. Keep playing. And that is it for today's video. I am really thankful to you for watching the video and hanging out here on my channel. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stick around. There is a lot more coming your way. Stay tuned, take care, and as always, keep gaming. See you next time.